Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to today's upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click the bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment and share this video. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. And folks, they really do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to today's upload, shall we? Okay, guys, so today I have got a couple of subscriber submitted experiences, and then we are going to jump into the reptilian case files. Something that I'd like to clarify or clean up real quick. Yesterday on the second half, I had shared like a 3-minute video of me down off of Nolan Road in the town of Moreau, where I am from. And I was by the Hudson River. In that location, there had been a Bigfoot experience back in the day, the 80s. And I had taken my kayak out for its maiden voyage. Well, I was out in the middle of the river, and if you've seen the video, you can tell that I was honestly in my glory. I had made a statement about a date, and I had said November 24th was my 8-year sobriety date. My 8-year sobriety date is April 24th. I was thinking of dates and stuff. My dad had gone into the hospital this past year, the 23rd, 2023, in November, and on the 20th of November. So I just wanted to clarify that because my sobriety date is very important to me. It's almost like a different birthday, I guess, like a whole different day for me. So, yeah, it's probably not important to you, but it's important to me. I just wanted to clarify it. Let's jump into some subscriber submitted experiences. Today's first subscriber submitted experience is from my subscriber, Kurt R. Jeff, you narrated an experience a couple years back of a strange pair of creatures crossing the road in southeastern Kentucky. Now, we had planned on talking over the phone a couple years ago. I was going to tell you the experiences I've experienced over the last 45 years. But I had to go to California on family business, and we never did hook up. I had 2 Bigfoot encounters while I was in the Army in the early 80s. A Bigfoot encounter, possibly a werewolf in Jackson County, Kentucky, on some property that I had owned about 10 years ago. And I had 2 Dogman experiences on that property in the last few years. Nothing spectacular, just short sightings, but even though they are brief, they were still awful scary. And the encounter I had with the 2 creatures that looked something like a cat and a dog crossing the road that walked bipedally. That's the one you narrated. I would like to tell you a family story that my grandmother experienced as a child. This would have taken place somewhere around 1913 or 1914. My great-grandfather, John Van Beaver, was a preacher in southeastern Kentucky in Knox County. Coming back late one night from a revival meeting in a wagon pulled by a team of mules coming up the creek bed, which was what was used for a road back then, when they came out into the bottom near the house, a large black dog with red eyes started paralleling the wagon. My great-grandfather was a great big man, standing 6'9" and weighing 375 pounds. He was a blacksmith and a Baptist preacher. The creature stayed with the wagon as it crossed the large river bottom. It was a very large black dog with red or yellow eyes. I've heard two different experiences from my grandmother and my aunt. As it got closer to the wagon, it stood on its hind legs, which terrified the mules. It was all my great-grandfather could do to keep them under control, and he had his 6 small children in the back of the wagon who were also terrified. The creature was black with a wolf-like head, large teeth, and clawed hands instead of paws. As it walked toward the wagon on its hind legs, making a horrible growling and snarling sound, my great-grandfather stood up on the buckboard. The creature approached, growling and snarling. The only thing my grandfather could do was think and pray as the creature got close. He picked up his Bible and gave a vicious, snarling beast a sharp smack across the muzzle and rebuked it in the name of Christ. It whimpered and let out a mournful howl, dropped to all fours, ran away. It was never seen again. My grandmother always called it a hellhound. I don't think they knew what a dogman was in 1914. The experience has been told in my family since 1914, and I am 62 years old. My mother and my aunt, my grandmother, have all since passed. I just wanted to share that before it was lost in time. Thank you, Jeff. I enjoy your channel. Jeff, I've included the location of the property where I've had the sightings. It's Panther Ridge in Jackson County, Kentucky. It's in the middle of Daniel Boone National Forest. I will include the latitude and longitude of the property. Please do not share. I don't want a bunch of people up there looking for a dog man. There is the longitude and latitude, and I am going to check it out online. But I think it is time that me and Kurt do connect, because I do recall that experience he's talking about, that bipedal cat-like dog creature, 2 of them. And I think it'd be an interesting upload to have him on. So let's get that going. Today's second subscriber experience is from John L. Jeff, it was a Friday night at around 10:30. I was off for the weekend, and my wife and kid were in bed. I was up watching Yellowstone on TV with our old dog lying beside me. Late 2022 winter. I'd bought a 6-pack of Miller on my way home, paused the TV to go and get my 3rd beer, and finish the episode and get ready for bed. On my way back to the living room recliner, I saw my dog right up against the wall, hair standing up, tail stiff, low growling. On the other side of that wall was a lean-to shed, 4x10, with my well house, plumbing, and filters, and has a door with a latch but no lock. I could hear something going on out there, and I thought it was people. I've never seen or heard of any cryptid other than Bigfoot, which most people know the name. I grabbed my 9mm SIG M18 handgun and a flashlight and went outside. It was weird. The dog wouldn't go out with me at all. I eased over and turned the light on, and sticking out the side of the shed was the ass end of a dog, somewhat bushy tail and hind legs. And at that time, it really didn't register in my mind the size. I kind of sighed with relief that it wasn't a thief and yelled, "Hey, get out of here." The animal backed up and looked over at me from a side view. I was in total shock. I've never in my life felt fear like this. When it looked at me, at first its eyes were round and its ears perked up, like it was just as surprised as I was, but that did not last long. I was within 20 feet of this creature, and it looked all wrong. This thing's eyes squinted, ears laid back, and it was starting to show its teeth. It did growl, and I've heard people say they felt it, but I can't say I did. My adrenaline and mind racing, I don't know if anything would have gotten to me at that point. I don't remember smelling anything either. Those eyes looked like a yellow reflector, and it was salt and peppered colored, with the black being darker than night, but the face had some brown or darkish red streaks like a Doberman. The head, I guess, looked like a wolf, but supersized. The eyes were so far apart, like it almost had to turn to look at something. The snout was oversized, just like its head. At first, I was looking at it from its side. The shoulders were high, that the hips, I was thinking, the shoulders were as high as the hips. I was thinking, I don't want to shoot, and was hoping that it would turn and go away. But it didn't. And when it lifted its front limbs to turn towards me, it was when I saw that it had hands, not paws. These hands were long, and the claws looked more like talons. I really don't know how long, maybe 3 inches plus. This creature turned towards me, and I really got a look at its shoulders. It wasn't muscular like a bodybuilder, but it was big like a burly lumberjack. I started backing up, hoping this thing would just go away, but it was locked on me, and either trying to intimidate me or attack me. I don't know. But when it was growling and showing aggression and starting to move toward me, I made the choice. I dropped the flashlight in my left hand and used the light on my handgun, pointed it, and just started shooting as fast as I thought I could hit. I know I was hitting this creature. It made an awful scream, rolled over backwards, and jumped the driveway and was gone. That's my first experience with these creatures. They are still around, and even the one I shot has been seen. Wow. Ha ha. Damn. I like his description. I've often questioned, not questioned, because I don't want to use that word. I've often, in my head, questioned that, you know, people are like, they look like a bodybuilder. It looked like Arnold. And to me, that doesn't make a whole heap of a sense, you know. Bigfoot's big. Bigfoot's strong. We know that. It's huge. It's bulky. But why would Dogman be ripped? You know? Why would a Dogman have, you know, a small waist and have that V-formed body, traps, and, you know, to me, what I saw in 1994 looked farmer tough. And I've said it since day one, that thing looked farmer tough. It looked like it was strong as strong could be, but it wasn't like rippled muscle. It looked like it could easily do some damage to my friend's car, the old Caprice Classic, but it just didn't look like a bodybuilder. It looked, like he said, a lumberjack or farmer tough. You know, I just don't picture Dogman being out in the woods at the weight pile, you know. Maybe they describe it like a silverback. You know, you ever seen a silverback? They look jacked, but not like a bodybuilder. They just look jacked. So anyway, let's get on to the next encounter. Today's third subscriber experience is from James. Jeff, I've been listening to your uploads for a couple months now, and I'd like to share my experience with you. I respect the work you do. I am from Southern Arizona, born and raised, lived here most of my life. I was raised by Christians, by my parents, but living in this town had to grow up quick. Gangs, mafia are big down here. And as you can imagine, things turn to shit real quick when you're homeschooled, then shoved into a public school system in 9th grade through to a senior. I got involved with a lot of things down here, and there's a rule: no one talks about it, or you become a disappeared one. That's why I don't want to give my real name. Some people think I'm dead or gone, and I'd like to keep it that way. So me and my homie got done doing some stuff, and we were going through the wash area. Huge wash attached to the Santa Cruz River. It was around 2 p.m. in the month of September or October. We dipped out, lost the cops, and made it to the main road. Got to it and started walking back to the apartment. On our way, we passed another wash connected to the Santa Cruz River, and my homie stopped me, saying, "You see that?" He was pointing towards the brush, maybe 50 feet in the wash. That was pretty good sized, and what I saw made me confused. At the south end of the bush was a jet black set of black/wolf legs, dog or wolf legs, with a long tail. At the north side of the brush was this jet black wolf head hanging low to the ground, looking down. White teeth, red tongue, and from what I can remember, white eyeballs. All I could see was a forearm elbow down with no paw or upper arm, cause it was blocked by the brush and a smaller bush where its paw would be. Why I was confused was the bush was like 6 feet long and maybe 7 feet tall, so the proportions were way off. And then its head and arm turned behind the bush, followed by its legs and tail. Then it stood up, head, neck, and shoulders above the brush, and it let out this mountain lion/wolf howl combination that made me feel weird, like my stomach felt like it was vibrating. We ran. We looked back maybe 5 seconds later, and nothing was there. This was the middle of the day on the west side of town, where on a sidewalk cars are driving by and nothing else. So we looked at each other and said, "Let's go check it out," because it made no sense. So we did, and nothing was there, so we just kept walking back to our apartment. Later that night, we went to the gas station and talked to an OG who worked there, asking if he had ever heard of anything like this. He told us him and his homies were in one of those washes behind the hospital, which we passed on our way about a half a mile north from the wash we saw this creature in. They saw it, said it was weird looking, started throwing rocks at it, and when it stood up and let out that same howl, they ran away. He said they took off to the apartments across the street and south from the hospital, screaming for their other friends to come out. When they did this, his Nana came out, hearing his voice. All of them asked him and his homies what happened. When they told them, everyone got quiet, quite sad, to get inside their apartments and not to go back outside. The homies at the apartments were older guys and aren't ones that joke around. When he asked his Nana, she said, "We don't talk about that," and that he was stupid for throwing rocks at it. She then made him promise never to do something like that again and never to go talking about it so no one would ever hear of it and go run their mouth, bringing unwanted attention from the police officers or worse to the neighborhood. He told us it looked exactly like what we described, but had red eyes. I only saw white, no red, when it stood up. It looked directly at us, and all I saw was white eyes, white teeth, red tongue, jet black fur. Not calling him a liar, just don't remember red eyes. The second time I saw them was when I had gotten myself into some stuff and had to go out. That's not going out to a club for girls. It's going out to the desert, doing what you're told so you don't take a bullet. We were taking the scenic route back to town after picking up some stuff brought from the other side of the border on a long hike out after getting dropped off. We hiked back, got picked up, and while heading back with 3 guys in the car, let's call them Bob, Bob, and Bob. So I'm looking out the back passenger window when I see 2 huge gray wolves running a good distance away alongside the Jeep that I was sitting in. Then they kind of looked at us and stood up running in an odd way. Not how we run, but with this weird arm sway down around the upper thighs. Looking at them, I saw how long and tightly muscled their arms were with their hands. Not like our hands, but similar, with nails like claws, kind of like a cat's, not as wide as our nails. They were thing like wolves, but they were thin like a wolves, but looked like musculated pits trained for fighting. Like what I've heard you and your interviewers describe. Okay, so he's saying what kind of like what we just talked about. They think like wolves, but it looked like a wolf, but it was very muscular, like a pit bull. These had more tone look, not huge bodybuilder look. I pulled out the Ruger Blackhawk 44 mag. It was the 7.5-inch barreled, one loaded with the hard cast P340 grain semi-wad cutter rounds. I don't play around with weaker handgun rounds, learned that lesson the hard way. When Bob, who was sitting to my left, grabbed my hands with his, telling me not to do that, so I stopped. Asked him why, he replied, "We don't shoot at them. They normally don't do anything but watch." I said, "What are they?" And he said, "Lobo medithos, or Lobo camindo, which in English is walking wolf, or wolf that walks upright, would be a closest translation." I looked back and watched them for a bit more before they went down on all fours, heading back up to the bottom slope of the mountain, heading southeast. Once that happened, that's when Bob let go of my hands, and I noticed Bob, who was sitting in the front of me, turned around in his seat with his Glock 40 in his hand, pointing downward at my chest. I holstered my Blackhawk and said, "Why would you shoot me over these things?" He said, "So you can bleed to draw their attention from us to you, since you would have been the one shooting if they'd let us go." I looked at him dead in the eye and said, "What, you can't kill them with yours?" And he said, "I don't like my chances with the burners we have." I looked at his 40 and asked him if I'm going to die like this now, even though I did my part. He said no and reholstered his 40 and said he was just overreacting because they are not supposed to be up here at this time of year. Yet he was so caught off guard, that's when the driver Bob shot him a look and he turned back around. We didn't say anything till we got back to town. They dropped me off and, well, it really didn't want to think about it. With everything going on, I just pushed it aside. More important things to worry about. So yeah, I got out of that crap. I was 23, got my life back. Well, a few months ago, started looking into walking wolves, found a bunch of bull crap on YouTube, nothing on Google. So I just thought it was yet another thing that people don't know about. And I watched a video about a Michigan dogman and started looking at dogman, and boom, a whole bunch of Google searches and YouTube videos, which is a bunch of bullcrap until I clicked on one of your videos. By the title and the picture, I'll be honest, I thought you were another bullcrap channel, but you proved me wrong. So I decided to finally talk about this for the first time with you. I have other things I have encountered, possibly vampires in Idaho and in Arizona, but that's another weird one. Weird can get you killed, but if you want to know about it, just email me back and I'll send it in. Also, if you want, okay, he's now talking about his life. So yeah, he did send me a vampire experience. You know what? I wasn't going to share that tonight, but I got one other encounter that fits in with the reptilian. Let's share that vampire encounter. So I hit pause and ran upstairs to my studio up there. Even though you guys don't know how long the time length between ending that and saying, let's share his vampire story. I had just set that on my desk upstairs. I just spent 15, almost 20 minutes going through 3 folders of subscriber submitted encounters and can't find it. It was on my desk. I'm a little baffled right now. I don't know if I misplaced it or what, but our next subscriber submitted experience is from a subscriber named Adam C. And this fits into the reptilian case file. So I figured let's end the subscriber submitted experiences with something that'll jump us off into that. Last night, this was on a live stream. Last night you asked me to send my UFO and unclean spirit encounters to you, so here they are. My UFO encounter happened while I was stationed at the Lucius D. Clay Kaserne in northern Germany with the 2nd Armored Division, FWD. It happened in 1984, I believe. I was a mortarman at the time with the 2nd BN 66th Armor. We were out on an economic maneuver called, I know I'm going to butcher this, but Trusachsen in Lower Saxony, Germany. We are getting on with this experience. We are at the end of this particular field problem, getting ready to road march back to the Kaserne. A few of us mortarmen went off a little ways from the platoon to chill out for a bit before we started the road march. We were sitting on the ground, feet hanging off a small ledge, sharing the last of our smokes with each other. It was late and the sun was down. I can't remember if the moon was out or not. One of us looked up and said, "WTF is that?" So we all looked up and saw this disc-like object hovering in the sky. It had a fairly bright red light going around the inside of it, and a couple of small lights at the bottom. They were stationary. We speculated that it was a helicopter, however, it made no noise. And in the distance, we would have heard the rotors. It hovered in that spot for a little bit, then moved on, straight up slowly at first. Then it shot straight up at a tremendous speed until we lost sight of it. We never mentioned it to anyone else, as we didn't want to get heckled by the others, or maybe even worse, by the brass. We would on occasion, when we were by ourselves and getting drunk, would talk about it, but only briefly. My unclean spirit encounter happened in 2009. My family and I had moved to Grand Island, Nebraska, from Rawlins, Wyoming, into a rental duplex. Soon after moving into the place, my 5-year-old daughter started complaining about something messing with her while she was trying to sleep. After a few complaints, I decided I was going to go through the house anointing it and commanding it to leave. So I fasted for 3 days in order to build spiritual power, and then I took my anointing oil. Using it, I made the sign of a cross on the doorposts of the front door. I then stepped into the house and in a commanding voice told the spirit, "In the name of Yeshua Messiah, I command you to return to wherever you had come from." I repeated this. I think it's Yahweh. Yahweh. Yesu. Yeshua. Y-E-S-H-U-A. I repeated this in every room. When I got to the downstairs family room, this being the last, I had even done the attached garage. After I had struck the door frame of the entrance to the family room and entered into the room, I said loudly, "I command you to return to where you had come from." I heard from the southwestern corner a loud "ah," and since then we have had no more problems. In 2015, my mother died of pancreatic cancer, and right around that same time, my best friend was murdered. I found out about his death much later. Well, anyway, soon after their deaths, a couple of strange things happened. I think it's the same morning. A few of the kitchen cabinets opened and closed on their own. A pistol case fell to the ground from a spot on the shelf. In my closet, never happened before nor since. Also, I do not believe in ghosts in that classic sense. As it says in the Bible, all spirits return to the Father who gave them. Paul also said, to be absent from the body is to be in the presence of the Lord. Also remember the story of Lazarus and the rich man. So in my humble opinion, all AF of these so-called ghosts are just unclean spirits pretending to be dead people. Thank you for your time. You can do with what you want with these. Remember, the unclean spirits, devils, demons, or whatever you want to call them, are easily dealt with. It just takes faith and obedience. The name really does work, and heavy lifting. Interesting. I like that. I really do. I like that. It really does connect together. And I do apologize. Yeshua was the name I was trying to pronounce. Anytime I have something, I usually just say, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave. But, you know, we, as humans and as people who have free will that God gave us, are entitled to use whatever name we feel comfortable with. I use Jesus. He uses Yeshua. Brad uses Yahweh. I know I always make it sound like I'm talking about the Australian Bigfoot. But anyway, I just think, well, if you believe in something that is clean, pure, and full of light and love, you are good. Let's jump into some reptilian case files. Case file number 30 from Chapter 30, the Dulce Book. The following are excerpts from the Dulce Book, Chapter 30, Revelations from the Leading Edge, which include the research and writings of John Grace, a.k.a. Val Valerian, in regards to reptilian life forms. Researchers will recall that the disk that crashed in 1947 at Roswell, New Mexico, had several reptilian species aboard, as well as body parts and clothing of several Army Air Force officers. Primary physical characteristics of the Greys. The larger Greys apparently have some vestigial reproductive capability, and some of the hybrid species that have been crossbred with the taller reptilian species have full reproductive capability. The brain capacity is estimated to be between 2,500 and 3,500 cc compared to 1,300 cc of an average human. Due to the cloning process, the neutral matter is artificially grown. Brain matter and the Greys have known technology that enables them to insert memory patterns and consciousness into clones in any manner or pattern that they wish. The Greys consume nourishment through the process of absorption through their skin. This process, according to the abductees who have witnessed it, involved spreading a biological slurry mixture that has been mixed with hydrogen peroxide, which oxygenates the slurry and eliminates bacteria onto their skin. Waste products are then excreted back through their skin. Many abductees have noted the Greys have a distinct series of odors. The larger Greys are more pronounced nose. According to some of the government sources, these creatures, biological entities, called themselves the EBAN. It is with the larger Greys that elements of the government made a series of diplomatic agreements in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. More on the Greys. The Greys are involved in stockpiling humans, including children, for the use of a food source for the reptilian species and as a lesser food source for themselves. Psychological characteristics of some Grey reptilian species autopsied by the U.S. government. Alien life form, or ALF, term used by the government to describe the Greys in terms of being a malevolent life form. The deal with the Greys in this, that their field around their body is different to ours to a point where merging of the fields ends up in creating physical symptoms, the body terror mentioned by people like Whiteley Strieber. The field around them is a direct opposition to ours. It is an anti-life field, as these specific species are on a devoluntarily spiral. They are akin to soldiers of fortune and offer their advanced technology in trade for things they require. They are experts at manipulation of both human body through manipulation of the fields and human mind. They require blood and other biological fluids to survive. They abduct humans and animals in order to acquire these fluids. They implant small devices near our brain which potentially gives us total control and monitoring capability. These devices are very difficult to detect. The analysis of the devices by technical staff has produced a description that involves the use of crystalline technology combined with molecular circuitry. and these ride on the resonant emissions of the brain and the various fields of human. Information is entrained in our brain. It appears that all attempts to remove the implants in 1972 have resulted in death of the human. Various descriptions of the alien life form relate to the following characteristics: between 3.5 feet in height, erect, standing bipedal, small, thin build, large head, bigger than humans, absence of authority, lobes, absence in auditory lobes, absence in body hair, large tear-shaped eyes, slanted approximately 35 degrees, which are opaque black with vertical slit pupils, arms resembling praying mantis, normal attitude, which reach the knees, long hands with small palms, claw-like fingers, various number of digits, often too short digital and too long, but some species have 3 or 4 fingers, tough gray skin, which is reptilian in texture, small feet with 4 small claw-like toes. Organs are similar to humans, but have obviously developed according to their different mutual process. A non-functioning digestive system, 2 separate brains, movement is deliberate, slow, and present. Alien substance requires that they must have human blood or other biological substances to survive. In extreme circumstances, they can subsist on animal fluids such as cattle. Food is converted to energy by chlorophyll by a photosynthetic process. This supports results gained from autopsies at 29 Palms underground base, where it is said their blood is a greenish and the tissue is black. Waste products are secreted through the skin. The 2 separate brains are separated by a mid-cranial lateral bone, anterior and posterior brain. There is no apparent connection between the two. Some autopsies have revealed a crystalline network, which is thought to have functioned in telepathy and other functions, which help to maintain the group consciousness between members and the same species. Functions of the group consciousness in this species does not have a disadvantage in that decisions in this species come rather slow as the matter at hand filters through the group awareness to those who must make a decision. The Greys and Reptilians, from an anonymous abductee. This initial report is concerned with 2 groups of aliens, Greys and Reptilians. There are several different kinds of both Grey and Reptilian, but for now, we will simply refer to them as a single group. Both groups live on the planet or beneath its surface and in space. They have been here for quite some time. The Greys are also working for the Reptilians, relative to the abductee as an individual and to the human race as a whole. They have been used by the Reptilians as the middleman, doing the work and exposing themselves to us on behalf. And instead of Reptilians, although Reptilian base and Surian Greys are less visible, which is why they have been chosen to interface with abductees. The Greys are constantly referred to as the mercenary force. Some reptilians eat humans, like we have chicken. In the United States, there are rumors of great underground food storage rooms full of preserved human bodies. Sometimes the rumor has it that the bodies are those of children. I asked the Greys why. If it is true, would it be children? I was told that it is not only children, but it's also that reptilians eat, adults that reptilians eat. Children are preferred because they are generally unpoisoned by substances such as caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, and other things that saturate their blood. The reptilians seem to have little regard for living beings. They think that we are as ugly and repulsive to them as we have ever portrayed them to be, and that we, the human race, are as valuable as weeds. However, they do seem to consider some of us valuable property. One gets the feeling they will continue to use us as they see fit. Or if they ever become a real problem as a group, they would sooner wipe us out than deal with it. So pretty much they just want, the Greys, the reptilians, Dracos absolutely despise humanity. I mean, this book, Bill Cooper talks about it. I do believe that the organization, what is it? The organization that was started by Tom Horn talks about reptilians and their just attitude towards humans and how they despise the humans. I mean, it doesn't get any sicker. These creatures are just mindless killing machines that don't do their own work. They have these Greys do it. And the scariest part about it is that they take our children. They take our children. Where have all the children gone? Who knows? 29 Palms. That was interesting. The autopsy at 29 Palms. I'm going to see if I can find some information on that. I'm going to send an email out to that one gentleman that's been sharing this information with me. But anyway, I am going to end the upload with that today. Maybe, you know what? Maybe we'll just share. Oh, I bet my cover of my favorite book. One of my favorite books. Guys, I want to show you this. This is very interesting. So in the title of Skinwalker, or in the main page, Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, you've got the Pentagon, but look what you've got. You have got a werewolf or dog man like face within that. This book is just absolutely amazing. It talks, there's so many, just so much mention of Bigfoot, Dogman, paranormal, shadow men, orbs. In this book, it is unreal to think that it's not connected. It is, you'd have to be absolutely, I don't even know, to deny that our government is well aware of what's going on. So with that, my friends, thank you for supporting the channel. It is your support, after all, that keeps this channel growing and going. And honestly, what gives people a chance and a place to share their experiences, ideas, and theories, judgment-free, simply treated with the respect we all deserve. Thank you. Please, everyone, stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there, and they are dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for those answers, and God bless.